Very proud to bring you my research and the results of this research and the solution in regards to free Wi-Fi coverage for Daly City surrounding the Ben Franklin Intermediate School. What I'm going to talk about is how my research evolved from just looking at what free Wi-Fi was in the Daly City area and how it evolved into bringing cheap internet into the household and also bringing cheap computers into the household as well and gathering those resources for this school site. So I'm going to frame this by looking at housing data from the surrounding area because it does explain a lot about the students that go there. Daly, on one side of Ben Franklin, you have households that range from $650 to $1 million, and they're generated by the market. On the other side, you have multi-story, multi-family apartment complexes that generally seem to end up housing a lot of the students that go there. A lot of these families, young families that send their children to Ben Franklin, really do fall by the median income, which is about $102,000. And if you do the math between $650,000 to $1 million, and you look at the median income, it's very likely that these families are not going to be able to afford to buy a house in this area. In fact, when I did notice anecdotally and qualitatively, when I talked to the students, if they did live in a house, they were renting it. Daly City is pretty much a suburb that was created after World War II, and a lot of these houses have been passed down to generations to their ancestors, not ancestors, to the people that came after them. And these families usually rent these houses. This is further supported by CASP data that I got from their website for 2014-2015 that explained that of the students, 60% are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And so it kind of proves, God bless you, it explains the fact that these families are, they're living in these apartments. Generally, they're just trying to make ends meet, pay their rent, which is linked to the housing prices around them and the effects of the gentrification of San Francisco. What this means is that Jefferson Elementary School District has decided to invest about $1.5 million into the infrastructure to help students get access to technology. And so they've bought 700 iPads for TK through 1 teachers, and they bought about 2,300 Chromebooks for 2nd grade through 8th grade. Ben Franklin themselves has about 6 carts with 30 to 36 Chromebooks in them. What they also have done is they've paid for 3 new positions called Tech Integration Specialists. I'm one of them. And what my job is, and my colleague's job, is to integrate the technology into the classroom. So this gives me a kind of an understanding of what they're doing and how this impacts these students that I elucidated in the housing example. What I've done in the classroom is I've shown teachers how to use Google Apps for Education, which means a lot of their curriculum is now moving from paper copies into the digital divide. And so this is where I started hearing a lot of anecdotes from students and a lot of quotes. Specifically, this was one I heard in a 8th grade math class when the teacher assigned a digital assignment and the students were tasked with turning in their homework at home. She said this out loud to the teacher: "I can't continue this work, I don't have internet in the home." And so this really geared my inquiry question into what resources we can find, whether or not we can expand existing free Wi-Fi hotspots so that students could do their homework and extend their learning and turn in their work outside of school. And so I started this process by giving a student survey data in 18 classes to 7th and 8th grade students, and ended up surveying 229 students across this grouping. And from the data, I actually was a little shocked because what it says is only about 4% don't have internet in the household. I thought it was going to be a lot larger. And so this, 4% is not that large. But if we're tasked with educating 100% of our students, we have to give that 4% the chance to do this work at home. Now, the second question that I asked was, if you are going to go into the public and you are going to get free Wi-Fi, where are you going? And for the majority, they're going to the library, which is very close to Ben Franklin. It's about 3 blocks away. They're also going to fast food restaurants, their friends and family members' houses, in the mall. I'm going to come back to the library in a bit because there's an ancillary thing I learned about this afterwards. The last question, I only asked 3 questions on the survey, and they're very pointed, was, do you have a computer at home? And this results really changed my inquiry perspective. So they may have internet at home, but there's a 10%, which is up from 4% in internet in the house, where they don't even have computers in the household. So this really changed my inquiry process. It was less about, well, it still was, figuring out free Wi-Fi in the community, but it was also adding a question as to how do we get cheap computers into these households so that students can utilize the internet that they have. And so it was from this moment that I started gathering resources. And I started with my initial question. The initial question revolved around free internet. Excuse me, that was this. But it comes up twice, so I want you to hold on to that. But I also realized, and I looked for cheap internet for the household. This is kind of what it shifted to as well. And I found out that these companies give about, for $10 a month, you can get 5 megabytes per second, which is not fast, but it's not slow. And it's something that can be affordable for households. If they don't have the luxury of going out all the time to do their homework and they want to be in the household and be with family, there still is another option. The problem with both of these sets of resources is this, and I'm using the screenshots I've taken on my phone. I didn't know that McDonald's had free Wi-Fi or Carl's Jr. had free Wi-Fi until I actually walked into the establishment and had my phone out and was looking for the Wi-Fi signal. There are no posters on the wall. There are nothing that indicates that there's free wireless there. And this is pretty indicative of every place that I was at. And so they're saying, oh yeah, there's free Wi-Fi, but nobody knows where it is. And if you don't have internet in the household, how would you know to search for these places to find internet? And this is also true of the internet companies, the cheap internet companies. I had to do a lot of research online to even find that these were around, that you could find them. They're not advertised. And so information became something that needed to become a short-term goal. Now, I talked a lot about libraries before, and I realized what the issue was. They were going there for internet, but they were also going there because the libraries have computers. And so they can use the computers to do their work, and they can use the computers to research online and to use that. And that's why it was coming up a lot. And that's why you saw in the graphic that I showed earlier that was the place that they went to the most, because it had both resources that they needed. Backing up, these cheap internet providers also provide computers for the household. And it's an option that you can select. For $150, they'll give you a new computer. And sometimes that's a burden. And so I wanted to look out and see what other resources they had. And there wasn't a lot within Daly City. In fact, there was 2 in San Francisco, where if you came in and you submitted that your child gets a free or reduced lunch, you would actually get a refurbished computer from these 2 websites. And so this was the best way for households to get free computers. A cheaper version where you still have to pay is under $50. You can go to the Goodwill Recycling Center in South San Francisco. And so what I realized from answering the resources for my second question was that there wasn't a lot of resources in the Daly City area for Ben Franklin in terms of providing computers for themselves. So it was at this point, after I gathered the research, after I did the research and I gathered the resources, that I developed my short-term goals, my short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. And my short-term goals is this. There's a current going through all the research that I did, and that is, there's no information out there. Students don't know, families don't know. So what's the easy way to do this? Create a flyer, a physical flyer. I know I wrote email up there, and every time I forgot to change that. But passing out a flyer to your students to take home to your families is easy. The principal at Ben Franklin also gives out a newsletter that can also be where you can show these resources. And word of mouth, back to school, it's very easy to start this up. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do this, and that's why it was a very easy short-term goal. Just get the information out, allow this to diffuse into the parents. My medium-term goals within this school year was, first, parent education nights. Now, parents come into the classroom or come into the school after school and learn why technology is being used at the school site. They're probably going to be more apt to provide those resources to go out and get those resources for their students for home. If they don't have any interaction with it, then they're not going to know how it's used in the educational atmosphere. The second one, I think, is probably the best midterm goal that I came up with, which is a donation campaign. But this donation campaign would go through the technology class that they have at Ben Franklin, and it would have a win-win situation. One, you'd be providing refurbished computers for the community of Ben Franklin. The second thing is the students in the technology class would refurbish those computers so that they can gain the skills and learn the understanding of how a computer works, how to fix it, and they could bring those skills home. They can use them throughout the rest of their lives, interacting with 21st century skills. The last thing is, and I noticed working at a district office now, is that the district, when they replace computers, they generally recycle the previous ones. They don't put them back into the community. And that seems like it would be a really easy fix to take all these desktops that they had at school sites that maybe just needed to be wiped, pass them back out, give them back to the community. Why do they need to get recycled? The long-term goals, the first two are the ones that I think have the most effort and they're most likely to succeed. There's a lot of churches around Ben Franklin, and there's a lot in the neighborhood, and this would be an extension of the donation campaign. Churches would get, donated computers, refurbish them or pass them along to the school to refurbish, and then you pass them back out to the school sites. The second thing is, and there's a lot of market research regarding this, engage with the community businesses. Show them the research that if you actually do bring Wi-Fi and advertisement into your school, into your business, you're doing two things. You're helping the community, and you're probably going to be raising your profits as you're bringing in more people. And that way you're bringing more engagement in with the school site, you're helping the students, and you're also helping yourself pay the bills. The last two were long shots, but I figured I'd put them up there anyways, and despite the fact that we're so close, Silicon Valley is really close here. I've seen a lot of after-school programs go in and get grants or scholarships for technology, or at least training and bringing students down. And so I think if you engage with them, that they would be more likely to do that. We're in one of the parts of the world where technology is hot. It's a hotbed. Most of it comes out of here. The last one is to go to Daly City themselves. Talk about maybe getting Wi-Fi on Samtrans. The students use the buses all the time, and maybe in its parks. Because the reason why we're always doing this is because these children are our future, and they need to be able to integrate within the future and with the needs and skills that they need to grow.